Captain Day 1 stood on the bridge of the Olive Branch, staring at the transmission from the Vrex warship. The alien commander's face filled the screen, all sharp teeth and cruel eyes. Behind Day 1, his crew waited in tense silence. "You will leave New Jeju within 10 days, the Vrex commander said. His translator made his voice sound like grinding metal. "This system belongs to the Vrex Collective now. Your people are not wanted here." Day 1 took a slow breath. He had been a captain for 15 years, and before that, he had served in Earth's defense fleet for 20 more. In all that time, he had never raised weapons against another species. Humanity didn't do that. They talked. They negotiated. They found peaceful solutions. "Commander, New Jeju has been registered with the Galactic Council for 40 years, Daiwan said calmly. "We have every right to be here. The colonists have built lives on that planet. They have families, children. Surely we can find a solution that works for everyone." The Vrex commander laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "You humans are always talking, always begging, always weak. We take what we want. You give us what we want. This is how the galaxy works." The transmission cut off. Day 1 closed his eyes for a moment. His communications officer, a young woman named Hai Jin, spoke up from her station. "Captain, should I send a message to Earth Command?" "Yes," Day 1 said. "Tell them the situation is getting worse." This had been going on for months now. The Vrex had started by demanding tribute from human cargo ships passing through their territory. Then they had begun boarding human vessels, taking whatever they wanted. When humanity complained to the Galactic Council, the Council had done nothing. They said it was a cultural misunderstanding. They said humanity should try harder to get along with the Vrex. Ambassador Ji Woo had spent the last 6 months at the Council chambers, filing complaints and making speeches. She was famous across human space for her patience. No matter how many times the Council ignored her, she kept trying. She believed that eventually reason would win. Down on New Jeju, 43,000 colonists were starting to panic. They sent messages to their families on Earth. They asked why no one was protecting them. Director Tae Young, who was in charge of all human colonies, had no good answer to give them. "Stay calm," he told them in his broadcasts. "Earth is handling this through proper channels. The Council will see reason. They always do." But some people weren't so sure anymore. Colonel Hai Jin, who served as military advisor to the Colonial Affairs Office, had been warning for years that humanity's gentleness was being seen as weakness. During every meeting, she would say the same thing. "They don't respect us," she would say. "They see our peace as fear. One day, someone is going to push too far, and we won't be ready." Director Tae Yang would always shake his head. "We left that kind of thinking behind on Earth. We are better than that now. We don't solve problems with violence anymore." Hai Jin would go quiet, but her eyes said everything. She thought they were making a mistake. On New Jeju, a farmer named Young-soo was teaching his 2 children how to operate the irrigation systems. His farm grew the special rice that reminded colonists of home. He had come to New Jeju 20 years ago, when it was just an empty world waiting to be shaped. Now it had cities and schools and parks. It had a future. "Papa, why are the bad aliens bothering us?" his daughter asked. Young-soo didn't know how to answer that. He wanted to tell her that everything would be fine, that Earth would protect them. But the Vrex ships had been flying over the colony every day now, flying low, making noise, scaring people. And Earth's response was to send diplomats in the colony's main school. A teacher named Yunbai was trying to keep her students focused on their lessons. But it was hard when Vrex fighters would roar overhead, rattling the windows. Some of the children would cry. Yunbai would hold them and tell them not to be afraid. "Earth is watching over us," she would say. The council is watching over us. We are safe. But at night, alone in her apartment, Yunbai would look up at the stars and wonder if that was really true. Captain Day 1 received his orders 3 days later. He was to take the olive branch to meet with the Vrex fleet directly. He was to bring gifts as a sign of good faith. He was to negotiate a peaceful settlement. And if they refuse? Day 1 had asked Earth Command. Then you keep negotiating, came the reply. That's what we do. So Day 1 loaded his ship with valuable metals and cultural artifacts. He brought food and medicine and technology. He brought everything the Vrex might want. Hoping it would be enough, the meeting took place in space, halfway between New Jeju and the Vrex fleet. Day 1 wore his best uniform. He prepared careful speeches about mutual benefit and peaceful coexistence. He had done this 100 times before with a dozen different species. It had always worked. The Vrex commander met him in the docking bay of the flagship. Day 1 bowed respectfully and began his presentation. He talked about trade opportunities. He talked about shared resources. He offered the gifts Earth had sent. The Vrex commander walked up to him, looked at all the treasures laid out on the deck, and then spat in Day 1's face. You think these trinkets matter to us? The Vrex said, You think your words change anything? You are prey. We are predators. This is nature. New Jeju will be ours in 7 days. If your people are still there, we will remove them. That is all. Day 1 stood there, feeling the alien spit running down his cheek. His crew watched from the shuttle, hands near their sidearms, but not drawing. They would never draw first. That wasn't who they were. When Day 1 returned to the olive branch, he sent his report to Earth Command and to Ambassador Ji Woo at the Council. He told them everything. He told them the Vrex were not interested in peace. Ji Woo took his report to the council floor the next day. She showed recordings of the insult. She showed proof of the Vrex threats. She begged the council to intervene. The council voted on the matter. They decided that New Jeju was in disputed territory after all. They decided that humanity had perhaps been too aggressive in their colonization. They suggested that evacuating the colony might be the best solution for everyone. The Vrex ambassador laughed out loud in the chamber. Other species looked away, embarrassed but unwilling to speak up. Ji Woo stood at the podium for a long moment. Then she sent a private message to Director Taeyang on Earth. It said only 3 words. They won't help. Across human space, people watched the council proceedings on their screens. They saw their ambassador humiliated. They saw the galaxy turn its back on 43,000 human lives. And they began to wonder if maybe Colonel Haijin had been right all along. On New Jeju, young Su held his children close that night. Yunbai made plans to evacuate her students to the underground shelters, just in case. Captain Day 1 sat in his quarters and stared at his hands. And in orbit above the colony, the Vrex fleet waited, counting down the days. The Vrex didn't wait for the deadline. They came on the 5th day, without warning, without mercy. Young Su was in his fields when the sky turned dark with ships. At first, he thought it was a storm. Then he heard the sound, like thunder that never ended. He looked up and saw the Vrex warships descending through the clouds. Get inside. He screamed to his children. They were playing near the irrigation channels, laughing about something. They didn't understand the danger yet. Young Su ran toward them, his heart pounding. The first plasma blast hit the community center 200 meters away. The building exploded into fire and debris. Young Su grabbed his children and pulled them toward the house. All around the colony, people were screaming now. Ships were landing. Vrex soldiers were pouring out. In the school, Yunbai heard the explosions and immediately hit the emergency alarm. She had drilled her students for this. They knew what to do. Single file, quick but calm, down to the underground shelters. Don't run, she told them, even though every instinct screamed at her to run. Stay together. Help each other. She could see the smoke rising from the center of town. She could hear weapons fire. The children were crying, but they moved like she taught them. Yunbai counted them as they went down the stairs. 28 students. All present. The shelter was built into the bedrock beneath the school. It had food, water, medical supplies. It was supposed to keep them safe until help arrived. Yunbai sealed the door and tried to contact the authorities. Nothing. All communications were jammed above them. The massacre had begun. The Vrex moved through the colony systematically. They weren't just attacking military targets, because there were no military targets. New Jeju had no weapons, no soldiers, no defenses. The colonists had farming equipment and construction tools and their bare hands. Young Su made it to his house. He pushed his children into the storm cellar, beneath the kitchen floor. "Stay here," he said. "Don't make any sound, no matter what you hear." "Papa, come with us," his daughter begged. "I will," he lied. "I just need to help the neighbors first." He closed the cellar door and piled bags of rice on top of it. Maybe they wouldn't look. Maybe his children would survive. He grabbed the only weapon he had, an old hunting rifle from Earth that he kept for scaring away crop-eating animals. It held 5 bullets. Outside, his neighbor's house was burning. Young Su ran toward it, but a Vrex soldier saw him. The alien raised his weapon. Young Su fired first, hitting nothing. The Vrex fired back, and young Su felt something punch through his chest. He fell, trying to crawl back to his house, back to his children. He could hear them calling for him from beneath the floor. He died 15 meters from the cellar door, his fingers digging into the dirt. The Vrex soldier walked to young Su's house. He searched it quickly, looking for valuables. He found the cellar door under the rice bags. He heard the children crying below. He armed a plasma grenade and dropped it through the door. Captain Day 1 watched it all from orbit. The olive branch was still in the system, still unarmed, still helpless. His communications officer was crying as she transmitted desperate messages to the Galactic Council. "This is the olive branch requesting immediate assistance. New Jeju is under attack. 40,000 civilians are in danger. Please respond. Please help us." No one responded. No one helped. On his screens, Day 1 could see the thermal signatures of buildings burning. He could track the Vrex ships as they moved across the colony. He could do nothing but watch as his people died. "Sir, we have to do something," his first officer said. "We're unarmed," Day 1 said. His voice sounded dead. "We have no weapons, no shields. If we go down there, they'll destroy us and nothing will change. We can't just watch. What choice do we have?" The attack lasted 3 hours. The Vrex broadcasted on all frequencies, making sure everyone in the galaxy could see. They wanted other species to watch. They wanted everyone to see what happened to weak races who didn't know their place. In the school shelter, Yunbai heard the explosions getting closer. The children huddled together, terrified. The youngest ones had stopped crying. They just sat in silence, too scared to make noise. Then the lights went out. The Vrex had cut the power. Yunbai turned on emergency lights, but they were dim. In the darkness, she held the children and sang songs from Earth. Old songs about home and safety and tomorrow. The shelter door began to glow. The Vrex were cutting through it with plasma torches. Yunbai looked around for weapons, for anything. There was nothing. Just food and water and bandages. "Children, get to the back of the room," she said quietly. "Hide behind the supply crates. Teacher, we're scared. one of the boys said. I know. Me too. But we're going to be brave together. The door fell inward with a crash. Heat and smoke poured in. Vrex soldiers entered, their weapons raised. They saw Yunbai standing between them and the children. Please, she said in their language. She had learned it, hoping it would help with negotiations someday. Please, their children. Just children. The Vrex commander looked at her. For a moment, she thought maybe he would show mercy. Then he raised his weapon and fired. Yunbai fell, and the children screamed. The Vrex killed them all. 28 students and their teacher. They didn't take prisoners. They didn't show compassion. They just moved to the next building dot when it was over. The Vrex left messages spray-painted on the ruins. This is what happens to prey species. Know your place. The weak deserve extinction. They took recordings of everything. They packaged it all into a transmission and sent it to every known world in the galaxy. Then they left, laughing on their communication channels. The rescue ships arrived 6 hours later. Earth had scrambled every nearby vessel the moment the attack started, but they had been too far away. By the time they reached New Jeju, there was nothing left to rescue. Captain Day 1 went down with the first landing party. He walked through streets filled with bodies. He saw young Su lying near his burned house. He saw the school where Yunbai and her students had died. He saw 43,000 reasons why everything he believed in was wrong. Director Tae-Yang received the reports at his office on Earth. He read the casualty numbers 3 times, unable to believe them. 43,000. In 3 hours. While the Galactic Council did nothing, he requested an emergency session of the Council. They granted it, reluctantly. Tae-Yang traveled to the Council station, carrying data chips containing recordings of the massacre. He thought surely now they would act. He presented the evidence to the full Council. He showed them children dying in shelters. He showed them farmers gunned down in their fields. He showed them 3 hours of calculated genocide. When he finished, the council chamber was silent. Then the discussions began. Some species expressed sympathy. Others suggested that humanity had perhaps provoked the attack somehow. The Vrex ambassador sat in his seat, smiling. After 2 hours of debate, the council voted. They issued a statement of concern. They suggested that both sides should work toward escalation. They recommended that Earth consider relocating colonists from disputed territories. No sanctions. No intervention. No justice. Director Tae-Yang stood at the podium, staring at the council members. These were supposed to be the civilized species of the galaxy. These were supposed to be the ones who stood for law and order. Ambassador Ji Woo walked onto the floor. She was supposed to be taking time off, traumatized by what she had seen. But she came anyway. She walked to the podium and stood next to Tae-Yang. She removed her diplomatic credentials, the badges and insignias that marked her as Earth's voice to the galaxy. She placed them on the podium carefully, one at a time. Then she spoke, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber and to every human world beyond. We are done being gentle. The transmission ended. Ji Woo walked out of the chamber and never returned. Behind her, the Vrex ambassador was still laughing. The news of New Jeju reached Earth within hours. At first, people couldn't believe it. 43,000 dead. Children murdered in shelters. Families burned alive. And the Galactic Council had done nothing. On Earth, something ancient stirred. Something humanity had tried very hard to bury. General Sung Ho was 93 years old. He had retired from military service 60 years ago, after the last of Earth's unification wars ended. He lived in a quiet house in the mountains, growing vegetables and reading old books. He hadn't worn a uniform in decades. He was watching the memorial broadcast when the phone rang. It was a number he hadn't seen in 60 years. Earth Defense Command. General, we need you, the voice on the other end said. I'm too old for this, Sung-Ho replied. Sir, with respect, you're the last living commander who led forces in actual combat. You know what we're capable of. You know what we did before we decided to be peaceful. Sung-Ho looked at his television screen. They were showing pictures of the dead children from the school. 28 young faces smiling in a class photo. All gone now. I'll be there in the morning, he said. Across the world, similar calls were being made. Colonel Hai-Jin, the woman who had been warning about this for years, received a promotion. She was now supreme commander of something that didn't exist yet, the Terran Defense Initiative. Her first meeting was in a bunker 3 kilometers beneath Geneva. Around the table sat representatives from every human government. They all asked the same question. What do we do? Hai-Jin brought up a holographic display. It showed military assets, shipyards, resources, personnel. The numbers looked pathetic compared to the Vrex fleet. Humanity had spent 200 years building a peaceful civilization. They had maybe 50 warships, most of them old and underarmed. This is what we have openly, she said. Then she pressed another button. New numbers appeared. Different numbers. Much larger numbers. This is what we actually have. The room went silent. One of the representatives, a woman named Minji, who governed the Mars colonies, spoke up. I thought we decommissioned all of that after the Unification Wars. We did, Hai-Jin said. Officially. But some of us remembered what Earth was like before we met aliens. We remembered what humans do to each other when we fight. We hoped we'd never need it again. We kept it hidden just in case. She brought up more files. Weapons designs that had been locked away. Battle tactics from wars fought centuries ago. Manufacturing facilities that were officially making farming equipment, but could be retooled in weeks. Everything humanity had learned from 10,000 years of killing each other, preserve, and waiting. The Galactic Council thinks we're weak because we chose peace, Hai-Jin said. They don't understand that peace was a choice. They don't understand what we chose to stop doing. General Sung-Ho arrived the next morning. He walked into the command center slowly, his old bones aching. But when he saw the tactical displays, something changed in his eyes. He stood straighter. His voice grew stronger. Show me what the Vrex have, he said. They showed him. The Vrex had hundreds of ships. Their weapons were powerful. Their shields were strong. Their tactics were brutal and direct. They had conquered a dozen species. They were unstoppable. Sung-Ho studied the displays for 3 hours without speaking. Finally, he looked up at Hai-Jin. They fight like they've never lost, he said. They fight like winners. That's their weakness. I don't understand, Hai-Jin said. They don't know how to fight when things go wrong. They don't know how to adapt. They've never fought someone who was better at war than they are. He smiled, and it wasn't a pleasant smile. We have. We fought ourselves for thousands of years. We learned every dirty trick, every desperate tactic, every way to win when you should lose. He started giving orders. Old tactics with new names. Strategies from Earth's bloodiest wars, updated for space combat. The other commanders listened, and slowly they began to understand what humanity had been holding back. In a laboratory beneath Tokyo. Dr. Bao-Ra received clearance to enter a facility she had only heard rumors about. The guards checked her credentials 3 times before letting her through doors that were 1/2 meter thick. Inside was Project Ragnarok. Weapons research that had been frozen by Earth's own governments 2 centuries ago. Not because the weapons didn't work. Because they worked too well. Bao-Ra read through the files with growing horror and fascination. Kinetic kill vehicles that could turn planets into rubble. Nano-weapons that could disassemble ships at the molecular level. AI-guided swarms that learned and adapted faster than any living pilot. we built all this? She asked the facility director. We built this and worse, he replied. We built it to use on ourselves. Imagine what it can do to species who think they're tough. The decision was made at the highest levels. Earth would not ask the Galactic Council for permission. They would not file complaints or wait for committees. They would act. New Chancellor Min-ji, who had lost her daughter and grandchildren on New Jeju, addressed not the Council, but the entire galaxy. Her broadcast went out on every frequency, to every world, in every known language. For 200 years we came to you in peace, she said. We accepted insults. We endured harassment. We believed that patience and kindness would be rewarded. We were wrong. She paused, and her eyes were cold. You called us gentle. You called us weak. You called us prey. We accepted these names because we hoped to be better than our history. But you have reminded us what we are. We are human. We survived ice ages and plagues and world wars. We climbed out of our gravity well while killing each other. We built civilizations on the bones of the ones we destroyed. And we did all of that to ourselves, to our own species, for 10,000 years. Another pause. Across the galaxy, species that had dismissed humanity suddenly felt something cold run down their spines. The Vrex massacred 43,000 of our people. The Galactic Council did nothing. So we will do something. We are coming for the ones responsible. We are coming with everything we have and everything we are. And we are done apologizing for it. The broadcast ended. For a moment, the galaxy was silent. Then the shipyards of Earth, Mars, Luna, and 50 other human worlds roared to life. Civilian facilities retooled in days. Hidden military stockpiles were opened. Weapons that had been locked away were brought into the light. Across human space, old soldiers came out of retirement. Young people volunteered by the millions. Not for conquest. Not for glory. For justice and for the memory of 43,000 dead. The Vrex heard the broadcast and laughed. They had hundreds of ships. Humanity had dozens. They had conquered before. Humanity had only ever fought themselves. They didn't understand that fighting yourself is the hardest kind of war. They didn't understand what humanity had learned from those fights. General Sung-ho stood in the command center, watching as the First Fleet assembled in orbit around Earth. 50 ships. Not much against the Vrex Armada. But they weren't just ships. They were the products of human warfare. Every system optimized for killing. Every tactic learned from a species that had spent thousands of years finding better ways to destroy themselves. Are we ready? Hai-Jin asked him. No, Sung-ho said honestly. But we're going anyway. Because ready or not, they need to learn something. What's that? There's a difference between being gentle and being harmless. They're about to learn that difference. The First Fleet began moving. Direction, Vrex Prime. Mission, justice. Method, the old human way. Admiral Ji-Sung commanded the First Fleet from the bridge of the battleship Incheon. He was younger than General Sung-ho, but he had studied the old wars. He knew what humans could do when they stopped holding back. The fleet traveled through jump space for 3 days. When they emerged, they were at the edge of the Vrex Hone system. Ahead of them, sensor readings showed the Vrex defensive fleet. 147 ships, 3 times the size of the human force. They know we're here, his tactical officer reported. They're forming up to meet us. Ji-Sung watched the enemy formation on his screens. The Vrex were arranging themselves in their standard battle pattern. It was the same pattern they had used to conquer 12 species. It had never failed them. Send a message to the Vrex fleet commander, Jae-Sung said. Tell them we're here for the ships that attacked New Jeju. Give us those vessels and their crews, and we'll leave peacefully. The reply came back within minutes. It was a recording of the New Jeju massacre, with laughter overdubbed on it. Then the Vrex fleet began advancing. "Sir, they're targeting us," the weapons officer said. Her name was Su Jin, and she had trained for 5 years on tactics that no one thought would ever be used. "Permission to engage?" "All ships," Jae-sung said calmly. "Execute Protocol Incheon." The human fleet split apart. Ships scattered in what looked like panic. The Vrex accelerated, sensing weakness. They had seen this before, enemies breaking and running. They began to pursue individual human ships. That was their first mistake. Commander Su Jin led a wing of 12 fighters that had been hidden in the shadow of the larger ships. The Vrex sensors had missed them in the chaos. Now they accelerated toward the Vrex formation from an unexpected angle. "Cascade formation," Su Jin ordered. "Just like we practiced." The fighters moved with precision that shocked the Vrex. Each ship hit a specific target on a specific Vrex vessel, all within 3 seconds. The timing was perfect. The combined impact overwhelmed the Vrex shields through synchronization alone. 3 Vrex cruisers exploded. The Vrex fleet hesitated, confused. How had 12 tiny fighters destroyed 3 major warships? They were still trying to understand when the human battleships, which had seemed to be running, suddenly reversed course. They came back in a coordinated strike that had been planned down to the second. Their weapons hit the same points the fighters had weakened. 6 more Vrex ships went dark. On the Vrex flagship, the commander stared at his screens in disbelief. What are they doing? This isn't how space battles work. His tactical officer was pulling up data frantically. "Sir, they're using maneuvers I've never seen. Their coordination is... It's like they're all one mind." They weren't, but they had practiced these tactics for months. Every human captain knew exactly where they needed to be and when. It was the kind of coordination that came from a species that had fought massive wars against itself. "Lieutenant," one ship commanded the destroyer Guangzhou. His ship was older and smaller than the Vrex vessels. In a straight fight, he would lose. So he didn't fight straight. He used the debris from the destroyed Vrex ships as cover. He shut down all systems except minimal thrusters, making his ship look dead. When a Vrex cruiser passed nearby, searching for survivors, one ship fired every weapon at once from point-blank range. The Vrex ship's shields didn't even activate. They were calibrated for long-range combat, not for something shooting from 30 meters away. The cruiser's hull split open. An atmosphere vented into space. One ship reactivated his systems and moved to the next target before the Vrex could respond. It was a tactic humans had learned from submarine warfare 3 centuries ago. The Vrex had never seen anything like it. Across the battlespace, similar scenes played out. Human ships did things that shouldn't work. They ignored standard tactical doctrine. They took risks that seemed insane. And they won. The Vrex commander tried to rally his fleet. "All ships fall back to defensive formation beta. Concentrate fire on their flagship." But the human ships weren't following the same rules. When the Vrex concentrated on the Incheon, the other human ships hit them from 6 different angles. When they tried to split their attention, human fighters would appear from nowhere and strike weak points. It wasn't that human ships were better. Many of them were older, slower, less armed. But the humans fought like they had nothing to lose and everything to prove. They fought like a species that had learned warfare the hardest way possible. "Sir, we're losing," the Vrex tactical officer reported. 27 ships destroyed. 43 damaged. "They've lost only 6 ships. "That's impossible," the Vrex commander said. "We outnumber them 3 to 1. They're not fighting like any species we've encountered. They adapt to every move we make. They don't follow any standard patterns." On the Incheon, Admiral Jae-sung watched the battle unfold. It was going exactly as General Sung-ho had predicted. The Vrex fought like victors. They had strategies that worked against normal enemies. But humans weren't normal enemies. Humans were the species that had fought itself through dozens of apocalypses and kept coming back. "Sir, enemy flagship is attempting to retreat," his communications officer reported. "Let them go," Jae-sung said. "We're not here to destroy their fleet. We're here to send a message." The battle lasted 4 hours. When it ended, 70 Vrex ships were destroyed or disabled. The human fleet had lost 12 ships and suffered damage to 18 more. By any normal calculation, humanity should have been obliterated. Instead, they held the field. The Vrex fleet retreated to the far side of their home system. They had never retreated before. They didn't know how it felt to lose. Admiral Jae-sung positioned his fleet in orbit around Vrex Prime. The planet's population was 8 billion. They had never seen an enemy fleet in their sky. They had always been the conquerors, not the conquered. Jae-sung opened a communication channel to the planet's surface. His message was broadcast to every city, every town, every home. "People of Rex Prime, we are the humans of Earth. Your fleet attacked our colony of New Jeju. They killed 43,000 unarmed civilians. They murdered children in shelters. They broadcasted across the galaxy as a warning to other species." He paused, letting that sink in. "We are not here to do the same to you. We are not here for revenge. We are here for justice. Every ship that participated in the New Jeju massacre has been identified. Every crew member has been documented. Your government will surrender them for trial within 6 hours, or we will come down and get them ourselves." The Vrex government convened an emergency session. They had watched their invincible fleet get torn apart. They had seen tactics they couldn't counter. They had learned that humans were not the prey species they thought. The debate lasted 3 hours. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to negotiate. In the end, fear won. 4 hours after Jae-sung's ultimatum, shuttles began launching from Vrex Prime. They carried the crews of the ships that had attacked New Jeju, 733 Vrex soldiers and officers. The Vrex government handed them over without resistance. Back at the Galactic Council Station, emergency sessions were being called. Species that had ignored human complaints for decades were suddenly paying attention. The Council demanded that Earth cease military operations immediately. Chancellor Min-ji received their message while standing in what was left of New Jeju's capital city. She was visiting the memorial that was being built. 43,000 names carved into black stone. She sent a reply to the council. It was brief. "You had your chance to stop this with words. We're stopping it our way." The Vrex prisoners were transported to Earth in holding ships. They would be tried in the ruins of New Jeju, where everyone could see, where the ghosts of 43,000 dead could bear witness. Admiral Jae-sung kept his fleet in orbit around Vrex Prime for 3 more days. Not threatening, just present, making sure everyone in the Vrex system understood what had changed. On the 3rd day, he received a message from a Vrex civilian. It was an old female, a historian by profession. "I have studied your species," she wrote. "I tried to warn our government that you were dangerous. They didn't listen. They thought gentleness meant weakness. They didn't understand that you were choosing to be gentle. That choice was a gift, and we threw it away." Jae-sung read the message and felt tired. He didn't enjoy war. None of them did. But the galaxy had needed to learn this lesson. He ordered the fleet to return home. As the ships jumped away, every sensor in the galaxy was watching. Every species was calculating. Every government was reconsidering how they treated their human neighbors. The sleeping giant had awakened. And the galaxy would never be the same. The trials took place in New Jeju's rebuilt capital. The courtroom was simple, built from local stone, open to the sky. Behind it, stood the memorial wall with 43,000 names. The Vrex prisoners could see those names every day. As they sat in the defendant's area, the trial was broadcast across the galaxy. Every species watched as humanity demonstrated something that surprised them even more than human military capability. Human justice. The lead prosecutor was a woman named Sang He. She had been a colonial governor before New Jeju. She had lost friends in the massacre. But she presented the evidence calmly, methodically, without rage or hatred. "We are not here for revenge," she said in her opening statement. "We are here because society only works when crimes have consequences. The Galactic Council failed to provide those consequences. So we will." The Vrex prisoners were given lawyers, both human and from neutral species. They were allowed to present their defense. The trials were fair in a way that shocked many observers. After everything that happened, humanity was still following rules, but the evidence was overwhelming. Video recordings from the Vrex ships themselves showed soldiers laughing as they hunted civilians. Communications logs revealed orders to leave no survivors and make it memorable. The Vrex had documented their own crime. One by one, the prisoners were convicted. Not all of them. Some junior crew members who had followed orders without participating in atrocities were acquitted. But the commanders, the ones who had given orders, the ones who had personally killed civilians, they were found guilty. The sentences were long prison terms, not execution. Some people protested this. They wanted the death penalty. But Chancellor Minji stood firm. "We will not become what we fought," she said. "They killed without mercy. We will imprison with justice." That is the difference between humans and predators. The galaxy watched and learned. This was not the behavior of a species seeking conquest. This was the behavior of a species that had been pushed too far, but remembered who they wanted to be. Ambassador Haiyan Wu took Ji Wu's place at the Galactic Council. He was different from his predecessor. Ji Wu had been patient and forgiving. Haiyan Wu was polite but firm. His first speech to the council was remembered for generations. "We came to you in peace, and you ignored us. We asked for justice, and you gave us platitudes. We showed you our dead, and you looked away. So we handled it ourselves. And now you want to know what comes next." He looked around the chamber at all the alien faces watching him. "Here is what comes next. We will continue to be peaceful. We will continue to trade, to negotiate, to seek diplomatic solutions. But we will never again confuse patience with weakness. Respect our restraint or face our resolve. The choice has always been yours." The council chamber was silent. The Vrex ambassador's seat was empty now. The Vrex collective had withdrawn from council affairs, focusing on internal rebuilding. Species that had once harassed human ships suddenly found reasons to avoid human space. Pirates that had preyed on human colonies mysteriously disappeared, their ships found drifting and empty. No one admitted to destroying them, but everyone knew. Trade routes that had been accidentally blocked for years suddenly reopened. Species that had ignored human complaints suddenly responded to messages within hours. The galaxy had learned to take humanity seriously, but humans didn't abuse their new position. They didn't demand tribute or territory. They didn't seek revenge against species that had wronged them. They just wanted to be left alone and treated fairly. Governor Sang He oversaw the rebuilding of New Jeju. Colonists who had evacuated came back. New settlers arrived, wanting to be part of the colony that had changed everything. The ruins of the massacre were preserved as a memorial. "We do not forget," read the inscription on the memorial wall. "We do not forgive without justice. But we do not become monsters to fight them." Young Su's children were among the few survivors. They had somehow survived the grenade in the cellar, protected by their father's body and luck. They were teenagers now, and they visited the memorial every year on the anniversary UNBI's school was rebuilt. New teachers taught new students. But every classroom had a plaque honoring the 28 children and one teacher who died there. Future generations would know their names. Captain Day 1 received a new command. The ship was called New Jesu, a destroyer built with the latest human technology. But it was also equipped with diplomatic facilities. Day 1 could still negotiate, but now he negotiated from a position of strength. "I haven't changed," he told his crew on their first day. "I still believe in peace. But I also understand that sometimes you need to show you can fight in order to maintain peace." The human fleet didn't shrink after the war. It grew. New ships were built, not for conquest, but for protection. Every colony had defenders now. Every human ship traveled with escorts. General Sung Ho retired again, this time permanently. He had done what was needed. On his last day at headquarters, he met with Colonel Hai Jin, who was now Supreme Commander of all human military forces. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked him. "I think we did the necessary thing," Sung Ho replied. The galaxy didn't understand that peace is a choice. They thought it was our nature. Now they know better. Will they hate us for it? Some will. Others will respect us. Most will just be more careful around us. That's enough. Dr. Bao Ra returned Project Ragnarok to its secure facility. The terrible weapons were locked away again, but now with a new protocol. They would never be completely sealed. Never again would humanity be unable to access what it needed to defend itself. "We hoped we'd never need you again," she told the empty facility. "We were wrong. But you'll stay here unless we have no choice." That's the compromise we make with our history. The Galactic Council gradually returned to normal operations. But things had changed. When humans spoke now, people listened. When humans voted, their votes mattered. The Council was no longer a club where humans were tolerated. It was an organization where humans were equal members. Species that had once mocked humanity now sought human alliance. Human military tactics became studied in alien academies. Human ships became symbols of power in a galaxy that had underestimated them. But humans didn't gloat. They didn't crow about their victory. They went back to their farms and factories and families. They went back to being merchants and teachers and artists. They went back to being human. 5 years after the New Jeju massacre, Chancellor Meiji stood at the memorial on the anniversary. She was older now and tired. She had spent 5 years rebuilding what was broken, both on New Jeju and in human relations with the galaxy. Representatives from 100 species attended the memorial ceremony. Some came out of obligation. Others came out of genuine respect. The Vrex sent a delegation. Their new government, trying to make amends for the old Minji, spoke to the assembled crowd, human and alien alike. 5 years ago, this place was a graveyard. 43,000 humans died here because the galaxy saw our kindness as weakness. We proved them wrong, but we didn't prove it to feel superior. We proved it so it would never happen again. She gestured to the memorial wall, where names were carved in stone that would last for centuries. These names remind us of what we lost. They remind us why we fight when we must. But they also remind us why we choose peace when we can. Because every name here was a person who wanted to live quietly, to raise families, to build a future. That's what we're still trying to do. She looked at the alien delegates. We came to the stars, hoping to leave behind our violent past. We believed that gentleness and patience would be enough. We were wrong. But we learned that strength and compassion are not opposites. They are partners. We will be gentle to those who deserve gentleness. We will be kind to those who show kindness. But we will be terrible to those who mistake our civility for weakness. She paused, and her final words echoed across the memorial grounds and across the galaxy. We are human. We are capable of both infinite compassion and infinite fury. The choice of which you face has always been, and will always be, yours. The ceremony ended. The delegates departed. The colonists of New Jeju went back to their lives, farming and building and teaching. Children played in parks built on ground that had once run red with blood. Admiral Ji Sung's fleet patrolled the borders of human space, watchful and ready. They hoped they would never need to fight again. But they were prepared if they did. Ambassador Haiyan Wu worked at the Galactic Council, building alliances and maintaining peace. He was good at it. Humanity had always been good at diplomacy. Now people just understood that diplomacy was a choice, not a weakness. On Earth, in his mountain home, General Sung Ho tended his garden and read his books. He was glad he wouldn't be needed again. But he had left behind training manuals and tactical guides, just in case. Because humanity had learned the most important lesson from its own history. Hope for peace. Prepare for war. And never, ever let anyone mistake your choice for your capability. The galaxy had learned that lesson. They learned it at New Jeju. They learned it in the space above Rex Prime. They learned it in the trials that followed. And they would never forget it, because humanity wasn't done being gentle. They just weren't only gentle anymore.